What kind of advice do you have to homeowners?
Practicing that preparedness, starting the conversation now is always going to be a benefit to any association out there.
And welcome to Recovery Report Live, Global Pro's deep dive into relevant business and insurance topics, providing actionable takeaways and valuable insights. We aim to update, educate, and inform you weekly. I'm Dan Odess, president of Global Pro, where we manage risk to recovery. Well, storm season is behind us technically, even though there continues to be a lingering area of interest, and the winter storms are picking up where the tropics left off. Our clients in the Northeast were recently battered by high winds and other extreme weather. Another reminder that preparation is key. You hear us preach it every single week in and out, and we want to make sure that all of our clients and those tuning in remember, stay prepared. You never know what is going to happen. But preparation isn't just for disasters caused by Mother Nature. On the contrary, during any cycle like what is occurring now, our team at Global Pro is tracking trends. Primarily, these trends are for businesses, insurance, and real estate. We are currently seeing a lopsided, dramatic increase in premium. I'm sure all of you are seeing the impacts of it. That is hardly justified, and countless misrepresentations by brokers trying to manifest an excuse for it. Things just don't make sense. Certain pockets of intense demand for real estate is leading to unpredictable values. Yet certain areas are experiencing oversupply, and they slow down in new construction projects. Meanwhile, the insurance industry continues to hold out on businesses despite a growing number of pandemic-related lawsuits trending in the policyholders' direction. It's important to hold out and continue to push. It's easy to give up and certainly tougher to forge ahead, but you are working against the odds. Instead, in most cases, the odds are in your favor, where insurance companies have years, in some cases decades, to adopt forms to exclude coverage. They didn't, and once they got through the early stages of these lawsuits, the reality should set in, and the only way is to pay. All of these trends and issues culminate in a rather strange, at times, and uncertain business and real estate market. Real estate and businesses are largely impacted by changes in insurance. Given the reality, I wanted to bring on a friend, a real estate mentor, a man I have tremendous amount of respect for, and to dive into a bit of these issues and talk about these trends, talk about what's going on and how things are going, and what we may expect here as we turn the corner into 2021, here late 2020. Our guest this week oversees the managing, leasing, and developing of more than 4.5 million square feet of commercial real estate. He is the president of Easton Group. He's an expert in commercial real estate sales, marketing, investments, brokerage, property management, and development. Before joining Easton Group, he spent 15 years at GE Capital, a division of General Electric, serving as senior vice president. So, Mr. Jose Hernandez, I want to welcome you to the Recovery Report. How are things going there for you? I like the full beard. We were talking about it earlier today. It's a good look on you. I'm very excited to share the stage with you. I want to get into some of these questions and talk a little bit about some of these real estate issues and some of these trends that we talked about. So, what's the year been like for Easton Group, and how are you guys trending and tracking?
Look, we've been blessed. I don't have another word for it than blessed this year. Given we started the year on a high, we were doing great. I think a lot of folks in the real estate space are doing pretty well coming into the year. And because of what happened, because of the pandemic, the flight to industrial and the uptick has been beneficial to us across the board. We had already had some properties under contract, so we went ahead and closed on those to develop those properties. Our brokers team has done amazing, just in trading on a lot of transactions that have happened this year, and our management has continued to stay strong. And from an acquisition perspective, we haven't bought as many things as we normally like, but that's kind of been the case for the last couple of years. We're very conservative. And with the spike in attention and demand and values in the industrial space, we've really cherry picked the things that we wanted to and where we found good opportunities.
Yeah, so you're talking some industrial space. I mean, we've all, seen some of the headlines with regards to some of these the deals going on in the industrial space, and I know that's been a sweet spot for the Easton Group, or I'm making an assumption there, but that's certainly someone. So as far as what's going on now, and as we are headed towards the end of 2020, where do you see the attention with a lot of real estate brokers or investor interest?
So we've seen what's happened over the last few years. So let's just take a step back, because we're so focused on Corona that we're looking at the world in a microcosm. Sometimes we look at things in a 12 or 24-hour cycle and forget that the rest of history has existed. There was already a trend over the last few years with a slowdown in retail, right? Big box retail, lots of bankruptcies, lots of changes, and then what we started seeing is that the money started coming hard and fast. And money is the banks, the debt, and private wealth and private equity are things that drive real estate across the board. Whether you're talking about buying tracts of land and building single family to big buildings, whatever it is, money drives real estate. So unlike other products where you have a need, a demand, and you manufacture, and you have all these other things, money is really the biggest driver in real estate. So what we've seen over these past few years is all the money, all the attention that was historically had gone to retail has started shifting into industrial. When I joined the Easton Group in 2014, you would go to these conferences and you wouldn't see a lot of attention being brought to the industrial. It was a redheaded stepchild. It was not 2 years later that those entire panels, right? JP Morgan, all these banks, I don't want to really call any of them out, but all these banks all of a sudden had these full conferences all built around industrial and how industrial is growing and so on and so forth. So coming into the pandemic, you see that shift of capital into the space, and then the things that happened during the pandemic, the amount of need that there was for real estate space, whether it was in warehouse, grocery stores needed space, or retailers needed more space from an perspective, right? Not from a walk-in perspective. So you just saw this huge shift, and that's continued to grow. So as we sit here at the end of the year looking at next year, we don't see that much of a change globally, or at least in the United States. And then more specifically in South Florida, where we're land restrained, you've got the ocean on one side, 20 miles to the west. You've got beautiful natural water presence there in the Everglades, right? And so there's not much more to go. You go north, you're in another county. You go south, you're in the Keys. So we're land constrained. So the need and the demand has continued to go up. The values have continued to go up, and we don't see that changing in 2021 or in the near future.
So you mentioned some of the things like, the shift, some of the banks and catering to certain sectors like the industrial market. In 2020, with the focus obviously being on the pandemic and what is going on with regards to just the health crisis that we're in the midst of, which has obviously led to an extraordinary economic crisis. Even in these tough times, there's always there's winners and losers. There's obviously, I think, in this rotation, if you will, a lot more losers than winners, but there's always some silver lining, and there's always a winner. Who do you perceive as the winner for 2020, and what made them that?
So, winners and losers in this environment, I think, is a little tough. So we'll go ahead and explain it as follows, right? So real estate is cyclical. It has its peaks and its valleys, and some folks right now are feeling valleys, and they're feeling these valleys at an alarming rate, right? They were here, and all of a sudden they're here. Where that cycle might have taken a year and a half, they're there very quickly. And then the winners are those whom, again, on the inverse, would normally take 3 years to go from this point of the cycle to that point, and then they got there in 6 months. So when you look at real estate as asset classes, we'll look at commercial right now because it's the easiest one to look at. It's divided into 3 prongs. You've got industrial, which are warehouses. Mm-hmm. You've got office space, which is office, whether they're high rises or single floor office buildings. Right. And then you've got retail, right? And in that trifecta, 2 of them have taken a massive hit, right? So those are the ones that have had the precipitous fall in that cycle. We don't know what the future of offices are going to look like. On some, you talk to one person who runs a large law firm, and they're saying that they're going to need more space than ever because they want everybody spread out. And while people can work from home, those who come into the office, they just simply, especially in the cubicle in the background and stuff, they're just going to need more space. And so they hadn't accounted for that. So even if you have a flex type workspace, they're going to need some more space. Other folks are saying, I don't even need an office, right? Forget those 4 floors and vertical. I don't need that anymore. So that fluctuation, right? Money does not like volatility unless you're betting on the volatility, right? So banks, investors don't like that kind of volatility unless they're betting on it. And so the office space has too much of an unknown. So that's taken a huge dip in valuation. Retail, as I told you, big box has already taken a hit. It's taken a massive hit. Think about it. People haven't been able to go to the mall for 9 months. So that's not good. But what you've really seen, unfortunately, the drop off are on the little mom and pop strip malls, right? Those historically have been cash cows. If you bought in at the right price, you could just sit there and your grandkids can just collect checks on that. In today's environment, again, there are a lot of folks that haven't or won't make it when the pandemic is all done, right? You've got hairdressers, you got salons, you've got your small, your small little grocery stores or places that sell trinkets. Yep. They're just not making it. So they're having a big time. So now you're looking at the entirety of that one vertical, right, of the retail who's really taken a hit. So I'd say that those are the ones on the downturn. And on the flip side, on the upturn, you've got industrial, where you're seeing a lot more building of industrial. And that person who sold the trinkets when they had nothing and they were laid, they were completely laid on their backs, maybe they were lucky enough to get some triple P money and they got the bright idea of, look, I'm not going to sell to the 5 people that come in front of this strip mall. I'll just get this small little warehouse space for pennies on the dollar by comparison on rent. And I'll just go on the internet and try to sell to the world. And some of those people are reinventing themselves. And so you're finding an interesting shift in dynamics there. All those folks looking at the industrial side as their kind of.
I mean, the needs are changing, right? I mean, and if you track the real deal and you read some of the articles about repurposing shopping malls into farms and all these other different ideas, but there are some that just continue to hold out, thinking, obviously things are going to turn around and we're social creatures and we're going to want to go to our shopping malls and movie theaters again. I mean, movie theaters are pretty much one of the first things to reopen in New York, where it was heavily hit after the pandemic, and you still had outdoor seating requirements for restaurants, but you could go sit in a couple hour long movie. But everyone thought the movies were going to die, obviously government regulation and restrictions, stuff like that play into a lot of the decision making and some of the things that we're seeing too. And a lot of times those things are a little bit unpredictable. I think for some of our clientele who expected certain things to be a lot easier and certain transitions to happen faster, as soon as they happen, they reverted back. And it's like, wow, I made this major investment to change physically my restaurant so I continue operating, and now you're not even allowing me to operate that way. Now what? And I think the restaurant impact is big time, especially in urban core areas like Manhattan.
The supply chain is also an amazing thing. So I'll give you a quick story because you mentioned the movies, and I think it's important. But these are the things folks don't think about, right? So I said before, money and real estate is the only thing that matters, right? There was a major movie theater company whom was looking to get a loan, and the requirement from their bank was that they needed to put in new seats, right? They needed to be of the time. So they went through all this iteration. They spent about 1.5 years getting everything lined up to get the loan, and as part of that loan, to get the seats necessary, which is a requirement of the bank. Guess what happens at the beginning of the pandemic? Seat company goes under.
Yep.
No loans, no movie theaters. And all of a sudden you've got movie theaters across the US that are going to close their doors. I'm not going to say through no fault of their own. They were doing the things they could, but what are they going to do? How many seat manufacturing companies do you think there are that can deliver the capacity that these folks needed in that short period of time? And so those are the kind of things that we've seen that are even taking what you said and peeling the onion back 2 layers and seeing, well, like, wow, that's I didn't even realize. Everybody thinks oh, movie theaters are closed, they probably went bankrupt and they're out. No, it's so many things that lead to this.
And no, it's truly a stack of dominoes. And, once one starts to fall, I mean, it could really be catastrophic. It's just kind of like, predicting where it's going to stop. And then amazingly how certain things are connected. I think people have come to realization how connected we all are, and how hiccups in that supply chain can dramatically. In an April 2020 article in the Real Deal, and I'm gonna read a direct quote. What we are finding now is the coronavirus effect, which is something I like. If the Amazon effect was strength training, this is what you get on performance enhancing drugs. Now, you and I had the opportunity to talk a little bit about the contrasting the Amazon effect and the coronavirus effect. But Amazon continues to make huge moves. I mean, we see it I sometimes feel like sometimes it's on a weekly basis. What do you take on the situation, and what do you think is going to happen in 2021 if things continue trending the way they are for Amazon?
So I continue to see an increase in demand for real estate for the Amazons of the world and the smaller retailers that are now looking at how they can have a similar platform online, right? So with the continuing evolution and half-life of technology, it becomes easier and easier for a mom and pop with a mobile device or a laptop to be able to reach the world quickly, right? With social media, it's extremely easy to get in front of the right audience if you have the right product. Before, when you have something, right, good is the enemy of great. When you've got a nice little strip mall place and you're doing well, you have all these dreams and ambitions of the things that you could do if you could do them, but you simply don't have the time. If you're running mom and pop, you're the CEO, the plumber, the accountant, you're doing everything, so you never have the time to take that. Well, what the pandemic has done is it's helped that shift. It gave everybody that reprieve, whether they wanted it or not, unfortunately, costing many people's entire livelihoods, but that opportunity to reinvent themselves, right? These people are not reinventing themselves at ground zero. They're reinventing themselves at ground 9. They only need to get to 10 or 12 to be successful. So that opportunity. So what does that mean? That means that you're starting to have all these folks shift into to warehouses. Just for your average person out there, if you looked at a regular run-of-the-mill strip mall anywhere in Dade County, it could be anywhere $30, $25, $30 a foot, up to $60, $70, $100 a foot, depending on where you are. On Main and Main, a warehouse space will cost you $15, right? So if you think about a square foot of that, so if you think about it, if you no longer need to have the people coming in and walking through, and you have this online presence, just on that alone, your ability, your run rate, your burn rate, the amount of money you have versus how much time you have till you have no more money, your burn rate is so much longer. So your ability, once you start actually getting those same clients that you already had on that platform and then delivering it, it's great. If I had to go to your store before, now you can give me all the new stuff online and pick it up like this, right? Because that's what's happened too. Before, you wouldn't want to do it because you would think, well, why would I get a UPS shipment 3 days later? I just want to go to the store and buy it now. Well, part of the Amazon effect is you've got all these little Sprinter vans dropping stuff off in minutes. So you can go online and you can order from a cupcake place that before you had to walk in front and say, I want that one. Yep. Now you go, I want these 5 cupcakes. And they're coming out of a warehouse down south by Homestead, or they're coming from East Hialeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little about that because I find that particularly interesting. Kind of what's and we're getting into what's going on with the restaurant industry and a major trend going on there. But I want to stick with the article real quick, and we're going to get right back to that thought on that. You also said more manufacturers will come to America from China, and after experiencing inventory shortages, more warehouses will be needed. Experts say. So the article said that, not you particularly. So let me correct my statement. In the article, they talked about China. They talked about the inventory shortages and the need for more warehouses here. And let's call this the China effect. So I don't want to get into not a political conversation about, trade and deals and things like that. But, sticking with the real estate trends here, do you see this happening? Do you see there being a China effect on top of the Amazon effect, on top of the coronavirus effect? How is the I guess the supply chain that we've been kind of addressing here. How might it be impacted by these issues in the long term with regards to trade in China?
Well, in the current administration, there was already a big shift. Everybody listening to this is probably very well aware of the tariffs and so on and so forth to bringing manufacturing back to the United States. And that's with smooth, average running supply chain. Now that it's gotten bogged down and folks can't, if people have a car, they never thought they couldn't, they have a small car issue. The smallest of car issues, a hose that is only manufactured in China, they're without a car for 3 months, which sounds absurd to people. But yes, you could be without your car for 3 months for a small hose that just is manufactured in China. So that fear will probably continue to bring some of that stuff back. That fear wasn't there before. Before it was a function of if we, and again, without getting too much into it, tariffs and so on and so forth, it's bringing jobs back. So there was, we want to bring jobs back. By definition, these jobs, if you're bringing jobs back, that's manufacturing in nature, right? And so warehouse and manufacturers are one and the same. So you're bringing them back. Now it's more a function of in that ingenuity, in that creativity, when people are saying to themselves, I really want to never have to experience this again. Someone is coming up, or people are coming up with, well, why don't we do this here in the States? And if there's ways to shift the cost of it, we'll figure it out. On the flip side, in Florida, we just approved the minimum wage increase at $15 an hour. 5 years from now, that might be cost prohibitive. So it'll be interesting to see how some of those things work with each other. The unfortunate reality is that technology is taking a big part of the warehouse, and you're seeing some million square foot warehouse without people in them, right? Where everything is being picked by drones, and things are being picked by robots and so on and so forth. So that'll offset the $15 an hour thing. But you'll start seeing that coming back, especially again as technology affects. Because the biggest reason that those manufacturing opportunities went away was because of the labor costs. And again,
right.
Changing the labor.
Yeah, now we're seeing, it's like another issue so you see a shift because of the labor costs. Now we're seeing, we potentially could see a shift just because of supply, right? So, having, and I think this goes to kind of all of why is Amazon so successful with the whole, buy it now, then the 1-day shipping, and then trying to create distribution centers in the urban areas to do same day. In order to be able to supply that way, you need to have it here. You can't have it coming from China and things like that. And when you have a hiccup in your supply chain, like we've seen, you can't service it. And so many items on Amazon, are not available because of the Texas supply chain. And then you see Amazon going out and buying, thousands of more square footage of warehouse space. But you made a comment about, changing the use of those spaces. First it was, or in how in which those spaces are operated. And a comment you made earlier regarding restaurants and where those cupcakes are coming from. And another change of use of the warehouse spaces that we've seen here locally and in a kind of a new term, if you will, something that's more mainstream, ghost kitchens. And these kitchens are now taking the place of brick and mortar restaurants. And what does that mean? Again, about the stack of dominoes or how things, the onion peeling it back. Most people, when they think restaurants, they think retail, strip mall, storefront, something you walk into. Suddenly our restaurants are all digital and you don't even know where the food is really coming from because you have these ghost kitchens. With the rise in this popularity, how do you think this is going to impact the real estate in the future?
Again, it depends on where you sit. So 3 years ago, I was on a panel and I talked about what I thought was the future in this space, and it seems to be coming true, which is I said, hey, if you ask somebody what their favorite restaurant is, most of the time their answer would be altered or shifted if you brought that home. So you say, what's your favorite Italian restaurant? You might say it's ABC Italian place. And you said, okay, great. Have you ever ordered at home? They go, no, I did it once and it didn't deliver well, right? So the idea that I had was, well, what if there was a commissary? And a commissary is where, you cook for multiple restaurants. Yep. And you start creating the best in class Italian restaurant, whatever it is, but only online and with Uber Eats and so on and so forth, the delivery becomes easy. You don't have to have your own delivery staff and so on and so forth. Well, again, just like we talked about with the Amazon effect, Corona effect, now by necessity, folks are saying, I need to be able to deliver. And why am I paying, again, $180 a foot to be on Brickell Avenue and delivering to West Kendall when I could be in East Hialeah, I can be out in Doral, I can be in, Hialeah Gardens and delivering, Miami-Dade and Broward, and it wouldn't even matter. It wouldn't even matter because we're all from the same kitchen. So I see if you're sitting on the I have retail space chair and you own that space, or you're developing that space, or you're an investor in that space, I see that as a challenge, right? Where if you are in the chair of the person with warehouses, or on the restaurant side, I see that as an opportunity. Now, I will give you a big caveat. Our number one industry in South Florida, right? What is it?
Tourism.
Yeah. No tourist is going to sit down at the hotel, take out their phone and be like, oh, what's the best Italian restaurant? So there's both of those. And as we continue to do a good job with tourism, I think the restaurant industry will be fine. What you're going to get is, to the business person, right, the restaurateur, that the model makes more sense to stay hyper local. They're going to be successful with the ghost kitchens, and to those, they'll backfill those very space. What you're going to see is a lot. What I predict in that place, in that space, is you're not going to see a lot of first-time restaurants in clean spaces. You're going to see a lot of second and third generation restaurants. And again, for people on who are tuning in, simply means buying a restaurant that's already there. So you already have the hood, which is the extractor, and the whole kitchen layout, and you just put your concept in there. You can completely change the face, but the kitchen, where all the money really is spent, or a lot of the money is really spent, you're going to see second and third generation folks. And so that's where you'll start seeing some opportunity there. Where today, you see a lot of empty spaces being converted into warehouse. What you were seeing, not today, a year ago, you were seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, no, I think, I'm broadcasting out of the Griffin studio here in Allapattah, and you're just, you're seeing all kinds of changes. And this happens to be a major hub for distribution of produce that comes in and out of here. And it just, I know that there's projects that have been discussed and planned where they offer these ghost kitchens. I mean, be real close to the supply chain, real close to the urban core area, major arteries in every which direction. I mean, it's changing it's definitely going to change it. And let's be honest, the restaurant industry is not the largest employer in the U.S. As far as an industry goes, said to be, and that's where we've seen some of the major impacts of the downturn in the economy. And while the ghost kitchens offer new, different opportunities, you don't have your wait staff, you don't have your bartenders. It's a different thing, but what I was just told the other day was, amazingly, is a lot of these brick and mortar restaurants that have the storefronts are a lot of times are the ones who actually have the ghost kitchen as well. And they have a different restaurant name that they sell through, whether it's Uber Eats or, any of the other Grubhub and everything else. So they still have the same staff. They're just trying to tap into other different markets. So very interesting concept.
They do that a necessity currently because they have a lease in place, and they're probably personally on the line. But if they could redo it, they would do what we discussed before.
Oh, for sure. And I think when someone asks you what's your favorite restaurant, it's not what you last clicked on, right? It was the restaurant's an experience. Like, you like to go out with your wife, your kids, and you go have an experience. And certainly, I don't think that's ever going to go away. Obviously, though, we do see, maybe just a different use of some of this industrial space, as we kind of talked about, where there are communities. We started seeing food halls started popping up, Design District and a few others, and they were super popular. Certainly not your pandemic-friendly environment anymore, with large congregations and open food areas and things like that. But, I think people enjoy the opportunity to be able to kind of like pick and choose. And I know that even, I think it's the Uber Eats platform or whatever, now you can order from like several different restaurants all in one cart, and then it'll all come to you. So it's kind of like bringing the food hall digitally. So it's very interesting. So Jose, just kind of, to wrap up here, any other, hot button, data-driven, things that you guys are monitoring or looking at Easton Group that may be of interest?
No, man, not really. The one thing that I would like to say for about a couple of seconds is for anybody that's listening to this is a golden opportunity that might come once in a few lifetimes, not even just your lifetime, where if historically you've needed to make $1,000 a month to live, and today you're making no money, this is your opportunity to reinvent yourself. And whether you're an individual, whether you're a company, whether you're a family business that's hit tough times, or this is an amazing opportunity to listen to this entire conversation that we've had and think of some of the things and some of the companies, how they've reinvented themselves, and reinvent yourself. And if you're a business and you're looking at different avenues, or you've had supply chain disruption, I can tell you right now that there's coders out there that you can get for pennies that'll write amazing code for you. And all of a sudden you've got a nice supply chain management system right here in the United States. You can find ways to make things happen. So that's kind of, we are a very entrepreneurial company within our own company. We're always talking to our brokers, our managers, and everyone else to kind of think what's new and how can you do things different. And so I just share that with everyone else, saying, hey, look, this is a golden opportunity because you're stuck. People are either unemployed or underemployed. And this is the one time that you have the opportunity to take out those, what they call golden handcuffs, right? Where you're making just enough money to live happily, but not enough to where you want to be. And since if you're not really doing well, to take a step back and say, okay, I'm finally going to do what I wanted to do, because you know what? I don't have really much of a choice.
I know, and I think it's sound advice, and I think certainly this is. I mean, I think with technology and the way in which we can leverage some of these things, the opportunity is infinite. I actually don't think it's finite. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of bury their head in the sand, and we've actually had on several entrepreneurial minded individuals that, like yourself, who focused on coaching people to think differently with this stuff, and they share your settlements. They broadcast them loudly, and one focused in on women in business, another was minority in business. So, it's completely sound advice. And I think if anyone takes away from this, that there is opportunity. That's why I mentioned winners and losers. I'm talking about economics. I'm not talking about, health and life and death and things like that. Purely looking at, business strategy, who's winning, who's losing. A lot of times, for all businesses, this has, tested our abilities to deliver our product, our services. And as a small business owner myself, as an entrepreneur like you, I've had to evolve. We've had to change how we're doing things with this show. 2018, 19, we talked about doing something like this, and we just never made it a priority.
Yeah. One panel after another panel after another. So
yeah. It was like, yeah, we'll get to it. It was literally, you look in our business plans, it was always there, something like this, some type of broadcast, some type of way to connect. And it just, it wasn't the priority. And then it became the priority. Now it's the major source of, broadcasting of our message and delivering and getting people like you to, engage in our conversation about things that may be relevant to our audience. And it's not all, not only about the live stream, it's about the recording, the cutting of it, the delivering of that message, consisting and kind of keep pushing it. So it's not what you do today, it's kind of what you do tomorrow, and how you kind of reinvent yourself over and over again. And to your point. Well, Jose, it's been a pleasure to have you on. How can our audience find out about Easton Group and all the great things that you guys are doing?
Well, they can go to the eastongroup.com, or they can, if anybody needs to get a hold of me, they can go on the website. My email's right on there, and they can reach out to me. It's really long, so I won't bore you with it. But if you go to theeastongroup.com, they can find my information there and send me whatever information they're looking for.
All right. Well, huge thanks to Jose, all of our attendees that tuned in this week. Go online, check out our website, click the resource section to read and download important information you need to be prepared. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel to watch today's broadcast. Like us, follow us, engage us on all of our social media platforms. We'd love to connect with our clients and community, so call us anytime. Also, next to me, to my left here, as a reminder, we are collecting gently worn shoes, as is our big initiative, Global Pro Cares Foundation, Fresh Kicks and Cuts, this little fun bag that we have here. We've collected dozens and dozens. We filled several boxes already of gently used shoes. We bag them, clean them up, tag them. We're going to be sending these to storm victims of 2020. There's been plenty of them. There's plenty of areas that need the assistance. We're doing our part. We're not looking for cash donations. We're looking for you to find that pair of shoes that's sitting in your closet, or even a new pair of shoes. Let us know. If you have it, contact us. Check us. Go online at getglobalpro.com. Click the About Us section. Pull down to Global Pro Cares. You'll see all the relevant information about the Fresh Kicks and Cuts initiative. We're collecting as many as we possibly can. We want to deliver these shoes to those that need it most. That's what it's all about. It's about getting a bump in your step. We want to be there. We want to help. We want to do our part. We have locations in Coconut Grove, Allapattah. Also, some of our restaurant clientele have lended a hand, and we're going to be dropping boxes at local restaurants. So there'll be distribution centers elsewhere throughout Miami-Dade, hopefully the Broward County area as well. More information on that in the future, as well as we'll definitely make sure that we post on our social media and on our website. Next week, we're joined by Eugene Dorfman, AKA on Instagram and Twitter. Check him out at The Insurance Guy. He's full of information with regards to many different types of insurance, not just property insurance. We're going to talk about different types of trends that we're seeing broadly in the insurance industry, whether it's for life, health. He works a lot with celebrities and athletes and has a wealth of knowledge, information. I encourage you to check him out, follow him on Instagram. He's always got the hot take on things and posting valuable information about life insurance and different things that he's seeing on in that side of the industry. So join us next week, 11 o'clock Thursday. Again, thank you to Jose and all of our attendees for tuning in this week on the Recovery Report Live.